Okay, so that said, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. We're going to spend a lot of time in the product itself, actually creating scripts so you can see the buttons that you click and how you functionally do it. And so let's go ahead and get started. So I will switch over. I'm going to show you scripting can be done in either a web interface, so you can go to your computer or go to your iPad and launch a browser and go to www.climate.com and do it there. Or you can also do scripting in the mobile app. So you can launch our Climate FieldView mobile app, the black app with the orange background, and you can create scripts there. I'm going to start showing scripting in the web version of Climate, but I'll also show you what it looks like in the mobile app version, because they are slightly different, and there's some different features that come with both of those in terms of how you want to use them. I think the web version's a little bit easier to do if you are creating a lot of scripts. It's probably easier to sit at a computer and use a mouse to create those scripts, but both of them have similar functionality. One question just came in is, should we update to version 5.4 of our black app? So we just yesterday or maybe this morning released version 5.4 of the Climate FieldView black app. And do you want to update to that? Yes, you do. That's the most current version. There's still a version of the CAB app for those of you who use Climate FieldView Drive to collect data in the field. Climate FieldView CAB app 7.0 will be coming out here, in the next, I don't know, we're not exactly sure, but hopefully by about January 31st. And so when that comes out, you'll want to update to that one as well. But please do update to version 5.4 of the Climate FieldView black app here, which was just released today. That has quite a bit of new updated functionality and features in it that will affect scripting as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my web page. So let me see if I can share Google Chrome. And this is something important to note, is that when you are using Climate on the web, when you're going to www.climate.com and logging in there, always try and use Google Chrome. Between Google Chrome and Firefox and Internet Explorer and Safari, Google Chrome definitely works the best with our product, especially when it comes to a lot of these mapping things. Google Chrome is a much more robust browser at handling some of these things. So do take the time to download and install Google Chrome on your computer, install it on your iPad, and whenever you are interacting with Climate on the web, please use Chrome. It will solve a lot of problems that you might otherwise run into if you are using other browsers. So I am logged into, I'm here in Google Chrome, and I have logged into my Climate account. So I just went to www.climate.com, and I logged in using the login button in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. And for those of you who have maybe only used our mobile app before, you log in using the same credentials that you use on your mobile app. The same credentials will work on the web. Or if you haven't used our mobile app, if you've only used the CAB app before, again, those same credentials work everywhere else. So log in here, and this is what you will see. You will see a list of your fields, a map, and what we want to do here is talk about scripting. So in order to do scripting, we basically pick a field that we want to write a script on. So I'm going to pick this Jefferson Center field. It will bring that field into view, and then there's a script button at the bottom of the page. So I'm going to go ahead and click on prescriptions to get started here. Now this takes me over to my prescriptions page. Let's see how quickly this loads. Here it comes. And what we can do now is we can create either fertility or planting scripts using the toggle here at the top of the screen. Do I want to create a fertility script or a planting script? And I'll start with a planting script on this field. And so you can see that I've already got one script created for this field, but I'm going to create another one as well. So I'm going to go in here and say, create a new prescription for this field. It's going to ask me here, what do I want to create from a planting perspective? Is it a corn script or is it a soybean script? And do I want to use advanced planting scripting or manual planting scripting? Now, I'll talk after we get this demo done about the differences between advanced and manual scripting and what programs those come with, but I'm going to do a manual script here because that's what we're demoing today. So I'll click that I want to create a manual script, and now it's going to ask me, what do I want to use as my management zones here? Do I want to use Surgo soil data for my management zones? Do I want to use some planting zones that I may have already created, or do I want to draw my own zones? In this case, I'm going to pretend this is essentially the first script that I've created for this field. So I'm going to say I want to draw my own zones. So I will click on Draw My Own Zones, and I will click Next. Now it's going to ask me some information about my planting plan. So when do I plan on planting? What I choose here isn't really that important from a script creation perspective. It will flow through to some things that we do in terms of nitrogen monitoring for those of you who are using our nitrogen monitoring tools. But I come in here and I say, you know what, I'll probably plant this field about April 20th. I put in the hybrid that I'm going to plant. I say, just start typing in the number of what it is, and if I type, 5057, it's going to find that variety. If I am doing a multi-hybrid script, so if I have a multi-hybrid planter, I could click this Add Another Hybrid, and it would allow me to put in a second hybrid that is going to be in this script. Obviously, not too many of us have multi-hybrid planters on the farm, but if you do, that is how you can use this tool to create a multi-hybrid script very easily. You would check here if you are using starter fertilizer, and if you are using a starter liquid, then you can, at the same time as you create the script, also create a variable rate script for the starter fertilizer as well, so that your planter can execute that script along with the seeding script. And then it'll give the prescription a file name. And usually what we want this to do is just something that you can recognize that it's for the Jefferson Center field and what variety is in there. So we kind of create a file name that hopefully will be recognizable so that you can pick it when you are in the cab and you're trying to execute it on your 2630 or Pro 700 or whatever you have in the monitor there. Okay, so with all those choices made, I just go ahead and I click Finish in Editor. And it says, okay, let's wait while we create the script. And I come to this page, which is obviously not a whole lot going on. I've got my field shown on the screen, and I want to create a seeding rate script. But how am I going to do that? Well, we basically give you tools to draw on top of this map the shapes of the areas that you want to script in this field. Now, how do we choose how to make those shapes and everything? Well, we can choose to underlay this map with any of the maps that we might have existing for our field already. So I can go ahead and hit Change Map here, and I can say, you know what? Let's look at my harvest map for 2016 on this field, and it will pull up that harvest map, and I'll be able to see it as a template that I can use to trace this field and build management zones, because maybe yield data is the way that I want to build this. Or I could say change that map and say, you know what, let's look at my organic matter map for this field from my recent gridded soil sample testing that I did, and I could use that as the underlay for tracing and making management zones in the field. Whatever maps that I have in the system, whether they are, you can see that there's all my soil test maps there. There's my satellite imagery maps that I took from last season or previous seasons. There's harvest maps available. There's planting maps available. I can use any past map that I have available as a template that I can then use to trace zones in the field and create these management zones. So in this case, I'm going to use a harvest map. So let me look at that yield map for 2016 again, put it on the screen, and then we just have simple tools here at the top that we can say, let's draw some zones here. And if let me make this a little smaller so I can get all my drawing done. And if I say I want to draw a polygon here, and really there's this eastern part of the field that does a little bit better than the rest of the field. Okay, so I'm going to kind of trace that and say, this part of the field yields higher, so that's one of my management zones. Let me stretch that back out and hit done. Okay, so I've got one management zone defined there. Then I've got this southwestern part of the field that it tends to flood, it doesn't do very well, and I'm going to make that another management zone. So I can just click Draw Polygon, and again, draw a area down here to create a zone there and hit done. And for simplicity's sake, I'm going to say that's all the zone definition I'm going to do. I now have 3 zones defined in this field: a good one on the eastern side, an average one on the western and the rest of the field, and then a poor zone in the southern part of the field. So now I come over here to the left-hand side of the screen, and I just define populations for those zones. So zone 1 is the main part of the field, the biggest chunk, the 41.49 acres, and I say, you know what, in that part of the field, we average probably about 150 bushel yield, and I'm going to plant it to 30,000 seeds. Then in zone 2, which is that good part on the eastern part of the field, well, there we average usually about 180 bushels, and I want to plant 33,000 seeds an acre there. And then zone 3, that poor part in the southern section, southwestern section, well, that part of the field usually never makes much more than 100 bushels, and I'm going to cut my seed rate there quite a bit. I'm only to plant 27,000 seeds per acre. So I put all that information in. It creates the script for me. It gives me a prescription summary at the bottom of the page that tells me, hey, my average population is 30,400. It's going to take me 20 bags of seed to plant this prescription. I've got 3 zones defined here. I can come over here and change the map to my population rate, so I can just see the script visually more clearly on the page in terms of what I've defined and see how those rates are changing. And once I'm happy with it here, all I do is I click Save, and it's going to say your script was successfully saved. And unlike last year, I don't need to send this to the FieldView cab app. As soon as I save it, it automatically sends to the FieldView cab app. So that's one less step you have to do if you are using the cab app to you're moving your scripts to the cab app for execution. But if I'm not going to be planting with the 2020 or something where I'm going to be able to use the cab app for execution, if I'm planting with some other system, I can then also go here to the export button. And if I click export, I can either send directly to my John Deere if I've got my account connected to my John Deere account, or I can download the file as any one of the formats that might be in my planter. So I could download it as an Ag Leader file, a Case Voyager file, a John Deere file, a Pro 700 task data file. We've added Raven Viper support here, so especially for fertility scripting, we can create them in Raven Viper format, a shape file, or a Trimble FMX file. So I can just download or export the script in whatever format best fits or works for the system that I'll be using to implement the script, and then take that thumb drive to the monitor, plug it in, and execute the script there. One thing to note here is that there is going to be a bulk export feature coming. It's not live yet, but hopefully here in the next week or so, rather than exporting your scripts one at a time, saying, maybe you've built scripts for 50 different fields, rather than hitting export on number 1 and export on number 2 and export on number 3 and moving them one by one to a thumb drive. There will be a bulk export that will allow you to move all your scripts out in one go. That's just unfortunately not quite live yet. Okay, so I could download this file here and save it, and that is really all there is to creating a custom planting script on the Climate FieldView system here. So it's super easy, it's very quick. You can underlay whichever map you think it gives you the best information upon which to define your zones, and then you simply trace those zones using the drawing tools up here in the upper right-hand corner. Now, just a couple of more notes on that. For example, if maybe you're doing a bunch of scripts for fields that have pivots, we've made it easy to do that. You can say, hey, I've got a pivot, and as you drop that pivot, it'll tell you what the radius is. It's 530 feet, it's 868 feet, whatever the radius is. So you drop that pivot in the field. You can then drag it around to center it where the pivot is actually located. And that will quickly define a zone that is a circle within that field. So that's an easy way to draw pivots. Another thing you might want to do, let me just undo my pivot. Another thing you might want to do is you might want to keep a test strip running through the field at a static rate. So just basically to see if your variable rate planting is in fact paying dividends. So what I might do is say, You know what? Let's do this. Let's draw a square, and I'll just draw a square here, and I'll move it around as I need. But I'm gonna do a test strip right through the middle of the field here, where I'm gonna plant this. Like maybe I used to plant at a flat rate of 31,000, and now that I have these variable rate tools that are easy to use, I'm trying variable rate scripting for the first time. So I might come in here and I would say done, and I would define this zone here and say, you know what, I'm going to plant this zone at 31,000. And what will happen here is at the end of the season, I can now do some checks. I can basically take, if you have seen our yield analysis tools where you can simply draw circles over yield maps, I will be able to take and basically draw a circle in here and say, well, what was my yield in this part of the field where I planted the flat rate of 31,000? And then I can compare that to, hey, what was my yield here where I variable rated things and I planted some of it at 33,000 and some of it at 30,000. And I'll be able to easily calculate if it is if it's being profitable for me to plant this variable rate script, if this variable rate script is either increasing yield or at least increasing profitability by cutting my seed cost and still maintaining a high yield. So you can drop in these test strips here that will make it easy for you to quantify the benefit of variable rate planting at the end of the season, because that's really what it all comes down to. We don't want to be variable rate planting unless we can prove that it is in fact a profitable action for us to take on our farm. And so we have the tools that allow you to put in these test strips and then at the end of the season very easily quantify is this working for me, and is it something I need to be doing more of? Can I prove that it is in fact increasing my profitability on these farms rather than flat rating? Okay, so that is most of what I wanted to say about the manual scripting for planting. Really simple tools. You can whip through 50 fields in a pretty short amount of time, create all your scripts, and be ready to go for the 2018 season. So feel free to play around with that if you are a Climate FieldView Plus subscriber at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to now exit this, and what I want to do is go back and create, one other thing. So I created this script, and I already had another one in there. One of the things that you can do is you can set your primary script so that when you do the bulk export, it will export the ones that, maybe you went in and you created 3 or 4 different scripts for each field. I can go and say, you know what, set this script as primary, and if I save my changes, it will then move that one to the primary script, and anytime I look at that field, if I do a bulk export, which I mentioned is coming soon here, it will always export the primary script for that field if you do create a couple of different iterations for a particular field. Okay, so again, questions, please go ahead and type those in to the chat or the question and answer functionality box. But I'm going to keep going here, and I will talk about fertility scripting. So let's take a look. Actually, just let me hold on one second here. And okay. So what I want to do here is create a fertility script. And so to create a fertility script, I again just go to the field. I click on scripting. So I'll just go back and do this again. So starting on fields, I have my list of fields. I have my map. I choose the field I want to create a script for. It takes me to a zoomed in view of that field. There's a script button at the bottom of the page. I click on scripting, and it takes me to the screen that allows me to start creating scripts, either seeding or fertility for this field. Now I'm going to create a fertility script, so I'll click on fertility, upper left-hand side, and it tells me that I don't have any fertility scripts for 2018 yet. So what do I want to do here? I want to create a new prescription. So when I click on create new prescription, it's going to say, okay, well, let's create a manual fertility prescription. I'll click start, and it's going to give me some options here again. It's going to allow me to draw my own zones. It's going to allow me to use the Surgo government soil database zones, or it allows me to use those primary planting zones that I just created in my planting script. Now, because I did a variable rate planting script, I may also want a variable rate fertility script in terms of nitrogen that's going to match exactly where I was putting more and less seed in the field. So let's do that as an example. So I already created a planting script. I can use those exact same zones for my fertility. So let's see if I hit next here, it's going to ask me, well, what is this prescription for? Is it a fall script? Is it a pre-plant script? Is it in-season, late season, or other? Let's say that I've put on a whole bunch of fall fertility, and I'm really just going to be doing in-season script. So I'm going to do a in-season fertility script on nitrogen. So I say, hey, somewhere about June 15th, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put on nitrogen. It's going to ask me what form of nitrogen I'm going to use. So I'll use like a UAN something. Let's use here 28. And I'm going to broadcast it, not incorporated, and I'm not going to use nitropyrin with it. So you choose a couple different things here in terms of what type of fertilizer is going on, what that actual fertilizer is that you're using, what the incorporation method is, and whether or not it's using a nitropyrin stabilizer. Some of these things, like if you're using nitropyrin, what's the incorporation method, and the planned application date. Those are factors that won't impact the script that you're going to execute in the field. We just ask those questions because if you are using our nitrogen monitoring tools, those values will help us calculate the way that the nitrogen is going to move through the system throughout the course of the year. So they're just additional inputs that, it doesn't matter too much what you put there if you're not using our nitrogen monitoring tools, but if you are using our nitrogen monitoring tools, it prevents us from having to ask that question again at a later step because we'll already have the data captured. So I choose all this and I say finish in editor, and it's going to bring me to my map. And again, my zones are already defined here. So now I just got to put the nitrogen amount that's going to match them. So here in the main part of the field, I might say, you know what, I'm going to side dress here with 40 pounds of N. And then in the good part of the field where I'm pushing populations and potentially pushing yields, I'm going to side dress with 60 pounds there. And in that bad part of the field, you know what, I'm not going to side dress it at all. We should have enough nitrogen there to manage it, and it's been a poor year already, and I don't want to do any more nitrogen in that part of the field. So very simply here, or let's say I'm going to put 5 pounds on there, whatever. Very simply here, you can create a variable rate nitrogen script to match your variable rate planting script, and a couple of things happen that I'll just discuss here. So one, as you put in the nitrogen rate, and this is new from last year, it's going to tell you the actual product rate in terms of gallons per acre that you need to achieve that many pounds of N. So I know we had a lot of folks last year with our scripting tools that would get out their calculators and say, well, I want how many gallons do I have to put on of UAN if I want to achieve that 40-pound rate, and doing the multiplication. We're going to do all that math for you this year, make things a little bit easier, so you can just quickly see here that the rate I'm going to be putting on in that part of the field is 13 gallons. It's going to be 20 gallons in the other part and 2 gallons in the third section. Like with the seeding scripts, we have some information down at the bottom of the page that tells us the total what we're going to put onto this field. We're going to average 42 pounds, we're going to average 14 gallons an acre, and we're going to need 737 gallons total of UAN to execute the script in this field. So some summary information there. And with that, that's about all there is to creating a script if you want to create a script to match your variable rate planting script in the field. So super easy, super quick, and it allows you to put the right amount of product in the right place based on what your planting plans are. Let me show you one other script as an example here, and then I'll switch over to web, and then we'll to mobile, and we'll finish things up here. Let me go to I'll save this script, and I'll go ahead and so when I save it again, it will automatically send it to Climate FieldView Cab app, so you don't need to push it there. But if I wanted to export it, again, I could go ahead and download it in any one of the supported formats and take that thumb drive to my monitor for execution. So I'm going to go ahead and exit this script and go back here, and let's do another fertility script. So I'm going to create a new prescription, create another script. Here I'm going to start with drawing my own zones rather than the primary zones I've already created. And let's say I'm going to do let's pretend I'm still back in fall, and I'm going to do a fall application of lime. So I'm going to do some lime. I'm not actually a fertility guy, and I don't know what all these different products are, but when I choose lime, you can see that there's all kinds of different things in here in terms of different lime products that I might be putting on the field. I'll just choose one of them randomly. Oh, sorry, got to get this to back out a little bit. Let's pick Dynagold Calcium. And then I will go ahead and finish an editor. So I now have what I'm trying to do is create a variable rate lime script for this field. And how might I vary lime in this particular field? Well, I might want to look at my soil test as the background. So I go ahead and I hit my change map and I hit more maps and I go to my base maps and I look at my pH map for this field and I load it as the background map. And what it allows me to see is what my pHs are in this field, and I can see that, hey, most of my field is kind of, in the 7 and above range, so not needing a lot of lime. But there are some spots in the field where my pHs are dropping below 6 and into the 5s, and maybe that's where I want to apply. So I can go ahead and, again, use the drawing tools, say that I want to draw a polygon, and just start drawing circles around the zones where I want to apply lime. And I go in here and I say, okay, well, that's one of my zones. And let's draw another polygon here down in the southern section. And say, here's another low pH area, and I'm going to put lime in there and hit done. And maybe that's about it. So then I go over to my zones here, and this main one, the main zone of the field, I'm not going to put any lime down, but these other two zones, whatever, I'm going to put down some number of gallons of this product. I'm not a lime person, so I don't know what the right answer is here, but I'm gonna say 10 there, and I'm gonna put 15 here. And with that, I am now done. This variable rate script is complete, and I can go ahead and save it. I think you need to put save this script, and I will be able to have this live variable rate script ready to go, and someone can go out to the field and execute it. Again, if I need to export it, I can to export it to the correct format, or I can send it directly to my John Deere, or if I'm executing with a 2020, it will automatically be there, because when I save the files, it automatically goes to the CAP app. Okay, that is about it. Let me see if there's, in this prescription settings, just to show you, also when you create a script, you can come into this prescription settings and quickly change, like, oh, actually it's not Dynagold Calcium that I'm using. I'm actually using a different product. I'm using Easy Flow Lime 38, and it will allow you to make those updates there, and then just change your rate. But changing your product can be done there as well. So that is about it, I think, in terms of scripting on the web for both seeding and fertility. That's how you do those things. Very easy tools to work with, and really anyone can flip through and quickly create those scripts for all their fields in a pretty short amount of time. I'm going to exit that, and let's go back to let me go back to the WebEx here. And sorry, I think I lost sound there for a minute. I accidentally muted myself, so thanks for letting me know that. What I'm doing here is I've gone into the mobile app, and it's a slightly different experience than on the web, but what it allows me to do is it allows me to see all the scripts that have been created for all my fields. I can see, for example, that Brandenburg North here has had 5 scripts created for it. The Big Bottom has 1 script created for it. I can basically see some summary details for each field. I could click in to each one of those fields and see all the different scripts that were created. Like this Brandenburg has a few different nitrogen scripts for fall, pre-plant, in-season, and pre-plant. So some different scripts that have been created for each of those different seasons. And one of the other nice things that's on the mobile app is that if I have finished creating all of my scripts, I have this summary at the top that says I've got 2 upcoming scripts, 432 acres, and my plant fertilizers, there's 2 of them. If I click that information I next to the 2, it gives me a summary of what I'm going to need in order to execute all my upcoming scripts. It tells me, hey, I'm going to need 20,373 gallons of this one product, and I'm going to need 12,357 gallons of 32%. So this, after you've created all your scripts, gives you a nice summary of all you're going to need in order to execute those scripts that season. And the same thing works for planting. If I've got a whole bunch of planting scripts, I can come in here and say, hey, I've got a number of different scripts. I'm going to need 102 bags of DeKalb 6188, and I'm going to need 21 bags of DeKalb 5057. Sorry, for some reason my sound keeps going away. My apologies if that. I think it. I'll try to make sure it doesn't keep muting me accidentally. So I can see those summaries of the total amount of product that I'm going to need for each of these scripts. Now, creating scripts is fairly similar here. I'm just going to show you one example to show you how it works and how it might be slightly different. If I pick a field here like Swanson's and say I want to create a new fertility script, let me show you what the interface looks like here. So I want to create a new manual fertility script. I want to draw my own zones. I click next. I say this is, let's do a fall one. So fall, lime, some particular product. I'll say I'm using this product and finish an editor. It's going to take me over to the field. Again, like on the web, I can underlay this with a map, so I can say, hey, let's pull up my my pH map for this field from my most recent soil sampling, gridded soil sample data. I've got my map there, and I basically say, okay, I've got a whole bunch of fairly low pHs in this field, a lot of things that are below 6, and so I need to generally apply lime most places in the field, but there are some areas where I don't need to apply it. So I go ahead and I click draw, and I make my polygons, and I say boom, boom, boom. Let's exclude lime applications from this part, and hit done, and let's also not do any lime applications to this part of the field, and hit done. And for simplicity's sake, I'm going to end there, but I could obviously make this more complicated where I'm differentiating between in the middle of the field where there's some parts that are even lower pHs than others and apply more or less to those areas. But I just come over here and I say, hey, in the main part of the field, I need lime. And so I'm going to go ahead and say I need whatever, 20 gallons. Again, I don't know the right numbers here. I'm not really a fertility person when it comes to lime, and I say I want to put in 0 here and I want to put in 0 there. And just like that, I've created a variable rate lime script for this field that, again, I click save, and the script is automatically saved and sent to the FieldView CAB app if I'm going to execute it that way, or I hit export and I either connect to my John Deere, or if I'm going to save it to a thumb drive, obviously I can't plug a thumb drive into my iPad, so I actually have to go back to a computer or use the web on my computer where I can actually save that to a thumb drive that I can bring over to my my monitor. So it won't be able to export it there to a thumb drive. But what I will be able to do, and this is the part that I mentioned earlier that's not working yet, is I could, from my iPad, if I've got all my scripts ready to go, I could use this export button in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, and that will allow me to export in batch all the files to a folder, a zip folder, that then I could download and bring to the monitor all at once. So that's about it, I think, in terms of scripting and what I wanted to cover. As you can see, I hope creating scripts is super simple. Planting and fertility scripts, they don't take much time at all. Very easy to use a particular map and create those as necessary. So I'm going to stop sharing here and go back to my slides and just talk about a couple other things in terms of how you get access to these scripting tools. So the manual scripting tools I just showed you are part of what we call Climate FieldView Plus. Climate FieldView Plus in the United States is a $999 annual subscription. And what it gives you access to is you get access to your entire operation, as many acres as you farm, a few different things. You get access to yield analysis. If you haven't seen our yield analysis before, there's all kinds of cool tools that are available to you that as you harvest your fields, we automatically give you reports of what your yield by hybrid is, what your yield by soil type is, allow you to draw circles on your field and understand how yield is changing based on all the different practices that you employed in that field this year. There are some fantastic tools in yield analysis that help you understand what is driving yields across your operation pretty much automatically without you having to be an IT person and sticking data together from all kinds of different sources that you've used throughout the course of the year. Field health imagery is something that comes with FieldView Plus in most of the country. Basically, these are satellite images of your fields that will be delivered to you automatically on every acre you farm as they are captured throughout the season. They are your treasure map to scouting, and they help you find those potential problem areas in the field as the season goes along, so you don't face surprises at the end of the year. That is available in large parts of the country, but actually out west in some places, the field health imagery is not a part of the FieldView Plus package. Manual scripting, all the stuff I just went through, this is part of Climate FieldView Plus. You can script as whether you farm 500 acres or 50,000 acres. It is all part of the $999 annual subscription, and you can use it on every acre in your operation if you have that access to Climate FieldView Plus. Remote view, split screen visualization, these are just additional tools that are used in our product that you have access to through Climate FieldView Plus. So that is where the manual scripting, everything that I just showed you, lives. It lives with this Climate FieldView Plus, and if you are interested in that package, please call our support team, and you can talk to them about what it is you want to do. They can give you more detail. And if you want to learn about more of these other features, certainly feel free to attend any of my additional webinars on how these other features work and what you can do with them. In terms of help resources, I did just want to touch on this. We have a whole lot of different help resources to help you use the system effectively. Some of them are self-service, like you can, while you're in either of our apps or on the web, you can go to support.climate.com, or you can click on help in either one of our apps and just start typing in what it is that you are interested in. If you have a question about fertility scripting, type in fertility scripting, and it's going to pop you over to a little video or a document that tells you how to do that. If you're interested in moving data out of a 2630, type in 2630, and it'll take you to a document that tells you how to do that. It's a really robust set of self-help tools that are available in those three places, and I would encourage you to use those through the year. And the last thing I want to say here before I wrap up and answer questions is we also have a new customer success team at Climate. We still have our support team that is the same great people in St. Louis that you've been probably, if you've worked with us before, you've called and talked to one of them. They've helped you with various issues. But we also have a customer success team that's really for kind of new people coming on board the Climate platform. And if you are new to the Climate platform and you want to get set up and you're kind of starting from zero, you can call that number on the screen, the 888-924-7475 number, and if you hit option 3, you can set up an appointment with our customer success team where someone will get on the phone with you and walk you through from zero to fully ready to go. They'll help you move all your old data into the system. They'll help you map all your fields. They'll help you set up your combine and your planter so that they are ready to collect data this spring, and your sprayer and all this stuff. It's a fantastic resource that I would highly recommend anyone who is new to the system take advantage of, so that when planting starts this year, you feel confident and you're ready to go in terms of collecting and using your data efficiently in the field.